Okay, the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to show you a presentation on cognitive services. I'm Steve Michelotti. I'm a member of the Azure Government Engineering Team. Ken, introduce himself.
And hi, I am Ken Hausman, and I work for the EPG Federal Team. And my job is to go out to customers who are using a lot of Azure and figure out their problems and then to help them determine how we can use those services in Azure to better suit their mission needs.
Did I just go backwards?
I think you did.
Quick agenda.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. All right, so here's what we're going to be doing this evening. We're going to do a quick overview of Microsoft Artificial Intelligence, cover a little bit about our strategy, and then from there we're going to be knocking out a lot of demos. So we have a lot of content to cover here in the next 45 minutes or so, and I just want to temper your expectations. We have a lot of cognitive services, and we're only going to be focusing in on just a handful of these services and how you guys can use these within your applications and your mission needs. So from there, Steve, let's go ahead and what we're going to do is kick off with a quick demo video of just an art of the possible, what we can actually do with these cognitive services and how they can even just help people. So Steve, let's go ahead and play this video.
I'm Saqib Sheikh. I lost my sight when I was 7, and shortly after that I went to a school for the blind, and that's where I was introduced to talking computers, and that really opened up a whole new world of opportunities. I joined Microsoft 10 years ago as a software engineer. I love making things which improve people's lives, and one of the things I've always dreamt of since I was at university was this idea of something that could tell you at any moment what's going on around you.
I think it's a man jumping in the air doing a trick on a skateboard.
I teamed up with like-minded engineers to make an app which lets you know who and what is around you. It's based on top of the Microsoft Intelligence APIs, which makes it so much easier to make this kind of thing. The app runs on smartphones, but also on the Pivot Head smart glasses. When you're talking to a bigger group, sometimes you can talk and there's no response, and you think, is everyone listening really well, or are they half asleep? And you never know.
I see two faces, 40-year-old man with a beard looking surprised, 20-year-old woman looking happy.
The app can describe the general age and gender of the people around me and what their emotions are, which is incredible. One of the things that's most useful about the app is the ability to read out text.
Hello, good afternoon. Here's your menu.
Great, thank you. I can use the app on my phone to take a picture of the menu, and it's going to guide me on how to take that correct photo.
Move camera to the bottom right and away from the document.
And then it'll recognize the text. Read me the headings.
I see appetizers, salads, paninis, pizzas, pastas.
Years ago, this was science fiction. I never thought it would be something that you could actually do, but artificial intelligence is improving.
Frisbee in the park.
For me, it's about taking that far-off dream and building it one step at a time. I think this is just the beginning.
So did I mention we were going to have some cool demos tonight? All right, so that was just to whet the appetite a little bit, and then we're going to do a bunch of live demos before your very eyes. Just got to get set up here. All right, back to the slide deck. Where are we here? Here we are. Shift F5. Just keep that.
We need to fix this. What's that? Sorry for the technical difficulties there, but now that you've seen that video, I love seeing the audience reaction whenever we show that, just to see the reaction that we have from the entire audience. I mean, I don't think there's a person in the audience that can't relate with something like that. You know, that's what Microsoft is all about. You know, we're here to help people, empower every person and every organization on the planet to do more. And that's really what these cognitive services are about. Basically, we've been in this field since about the year 1992. We've been doing research around speech recognition and language translation since that time. And basically what we're doing is taking machine learning models and then taking all the complex stuff and creating APIs that then you can plug your applications into so that you can consume these exact services for yourself, for your own applications. So really, what we're here to do is just democratize artificial intelligence. You know, many of you probably have things like Surface Books or other machines that you're using already today that have many of these same types of services baked in. If you're doing anything with handwriting recognition or walking up to your machine and using Windows Hello just to log in with your face, you're using these same types of technologies already, and you're probably not even aware of it. So, you know, what we've been doing now is just focusing in on the industry. You know, we've taken the last 30 years or so to teach computers how to think, act, and respond like human beings, but now we're kind of flipping that on its head. We're doing the exact opposite. We're teaching, you know, computers to think, act, and respond like humans instead. So with this, we have a whole suite of different services within Cortana Intelligence that actually cover a lot of these artificial intelligence capabilities. And we're going to talk about a few of these things here today. I don't have the time to go into all of our cognitive services, much less all of this information up here on this slide. So I'm not going to bore you to death with this, but we're just going to push on through this. And I think this slide really sums up a lot of the different things that are happening in the industry. IDC, an independent consulting firm, is looking how cognitive services are really going to have an impact on the entire IT industry. I mean, you can see here that by 2018, half of all consumers are going to be interacting with some form of cognitive computing on a regular basis. So what that means for you in the government industry, that's going to be things like fraud analytics, for example, defense, connected vehicles, and all sorts of advanced things around freight management, sales process automation, things like that. So why cognitive services? Pretty simple answer. They're easy to use. They're just simple APIs. You get a key from your Azure portal, and you plug it in, and you can start building things immediately. You can do this in Node.js, C#, Python. You can use it across all of your devices, whether it be Android, iPhone, Windows. And then we also have a robust user community. We have many samples of these applications that you'll see today out on GitHub, where you can just pull this down and test it out for yourself. All you have to do is just pull down a key. And many of these things will be free for you to even test. We also have a lot of stuff out on Stack Overflow for user support, and user voice for you to upvote and provide your own opinions on how we should shape these APIs for your use in the future. So what are these cognitive services? We have 5 different categories, as you see up here on the screen: vision, speech, language, knowledge, and search. We're going to be focusing in on a few of these today, but as you can see, vision is mainly just taking what a human would normally see and interpret, and being able to recognize, identify, whether it be faces or objects. We have speech that can synthesize human voice, understand, and then we also have language categories that allow us to actually process text and interpret into different languages. You see here that we have 24 current APIs that are available in the FedRAMP moderate space right now today. And like I said, we're going to be focusing in on 6 different APIs today: computer vision, emotion, face, Bing speech, speaker recognition, and translator. So with that, we're going to kick off a couple of demos. We're going to go through a document translator demo that Steve is going to go through. Same with Basic Postman to break down how things are actually being used behind the scenes. And then we're going to demo a couple of GitHub apps that are available as well.
Okay, duplicate. Okay, so you guys have seen, you've gotten the basic background context now about what cognitive services are. Ken said they're APIs, and we have different categories of these APIs. So now we actually want to show you some of these in action. So what I have here is I'm going to show you a couple of different things. We're going to start out with translation. So this is just a text file here, and you may notice that it has Chinese text right here. This is actually the art of war. And you'll notice that up here in the upper right corner, if my zoom is working okay, there's just that one document, TXT, okay? I'm going to translate this Chinese document by selecting it here, and I'm going to translate it into English when I hit the go button here. And actually, I realize here I might have to, let's come in here. Okay, let me just restart it real quick. Sometimes does this. Okay. All right, now when I run this translation, what I want you to do is in the upper left corner, here where you see it, in fact, let me close this document. You'll see there's just one document that lives in this directory. When I'm going to select this document, and I'm going to select, oh, come back to me. See, this is how you know it's actually a live demo, that, you know, if things, you know, occasionally don't work right, you know it's a live demo. So let me try it one more time here. And also, I see the problem. I lost my internet connection. See? So bear with me here. Let's make sure we can still connect. Yes, okay, we're good. All right, we're trying it one more time. Pressing on. Now I've made it exciting. Everyone's on the edge of their seats now. Oh, come on. Oh. Let me make sure I'm still connected here. Yes. Obviously, for us to demo these APIs, we need a legitimate internet connection. Oh, here we go. All right, it's working this time. Okay, now watch the upper left-hand corner. You'll see I'm translating it to English. I'm going to click Go right here, and watch up here in the upper left. You're going to see that we just had this other file that just appear, and you'll see that it translated the entire thing to English. So the book, The Art of War, in Chinese text, it made API calls up to the server, and now here is the English translation. This document appeared right next to it. You can see we have like a .en extension right here, en for English. So, and you saw that that just happened basically real time, only a few seconds, and that was probably a couple thousand words that translated in just a couple of seconds, all right? Can't count the internet connection. That doesn't count against my time, all right? All right, so I know that we have a mix here in the audience of some business users, some managers, some developers. So from a developer standpoint, I want to give you all something to look at as well. And so a lot of times we show a demo like that, and it's like, all right, well, that was pretty magical. Just did that translation, but how is it actually working behind the scenes? What does it actually look like to call one of these APIs? So what I have here is Postman. This is just a simple tool that most developers in here are probably intimately familiar with. And this is just a way to make HTTP calls without a browser, all right? And so there's a couple of things I have to do. First thing is I need to get a token. So I have my key, which I can get from the Azure portal for my Cognitive Services account, and I'm just going to send this request here, and I'm going to get a response back, and this is my bearer token. So I'm going to select all of this down here, my bearer token, and I'm actually going to use a feature of Postman where I can come in here and just edit this entire thing. We'll say bearer paste, all right? So I've pasted that entire value into this variable, and you'll notice that variable name is CS bearer token, all right? CS bearer token. That whole thing, that bearer token came back. I need to use that bearer token to make my API calls now. So if I come in here and say translate, if we look at this URL here, you're going to see a couple of things. Number one, we see this is calling the translator API. and specifically the translate endpoint. And then we have that CS bearer token right here. It's as if I pasted that bearer token right there on the query string. And then the other thing, it might be really hard to see, but it says, let me see if I can get it. See, it says 2 equals FR. So this is what language am I translating into? In the last demo, I was doing that document demo, was going from Chinese to English. In this demo, we're going from English to FR, which is French, all right? And then the very last parameter on this is the text. So if I just scroll over a little bit, we can see that the text parameter is the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, all right? So let me just go over a little bit so you can see it. So this is what it looks like behind the scenes to formulate an API call to one of these endpoints. I can say, what language am I going to? What text am I going to translate? And I have authentication, I have my key that all goes into this. So yes, the first thing I showed you was this document translator. I brought up this Windows app and translated the document, and behind the scenes, it basically called this endpoint. In fact, it called it several times because it had to translate a couple thousand words, so there was actually a few calls that went on behind the scenes. I'm breaking that down and just show you the most simple level, which is a single call. So let's just click the send button right here, and it's going to go off and do the translation into French for the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, and if we have any French speakers in here, you can verify the translation there, okay? All right, so that's just a quick example of how some of these APIs work. Okay, what's our next demo here? Is it, oh, speech translation. Yes, are you gonna show this first one, or am I? Either way. All right, so the first one we just showed you was text translation. Now we want to show you speech translation. You can show the beginning part of this here.
Exactly. All right. So again, this is just an application that you can pull down straight from GitHub yourself. And all it's going to require is just a subscription key that you're going to plug in from this account settings panel right here. I'm not going to show it to you because then that's going to expose Steve's API key, and then people out on the internet.
Key in the last demo, but that's okay.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
All right. But the nice thing about this demo right here is that we can actually show how we can capture all of the audio that occurs during the process of translation, as well as capturing all of the audio that we're transmitting back to the end user in the new language, in addition to additionally capturing the transcript of everything that is being done in written format. So like Steve had shown before, we can capture that written text, but here with this application, we can actually capture everything all around. So what I'm going to do is just show you the drop down here that allows you to select which language you're going from, and then in the next drop down, it's going to show you a list of up to 60 plus languages that we can translate into. So this is just using the translator API behind the scenes, and it uses a bunch of machine learning algorithms to determine how to actually transfer that into the new language. So I'm going to select English here, and chances are we probably have a few Spanish speakers in the room, so I'm going to kick off with this. Hello, Greg. How are you doing this evening? And if we had audio, since we're not plugged in over there, you would actually hear this being spoken back to you at the same time. But what we can actually do is then, like I said, show all of those recorded MP4 files that were sent as well as received, and then we also have this written transcript that you see down here in this bottom box. So everything that's being done is being recorded. So it looks like we have a question here.
Does it learn your accent?
Does it learn your accent is the question. So the answer to that is no, but we do have an add-on piece called Microsoft Translator Hub, and you can customize some things through there. Additionally, there is another cognitive service that you can use in conjunction with this. It's called the custom speech service. So you can actually modify not only the keywords that you might use within your own specific domain, but additionally you can also then filter out background noises and things like that. So a good example of CSS use case would be things like McDonald's. If you're driving up through a drive-through, there's typically a lot of background noise, things like engine noise that's occurring, and you also have special keywords in the process of speaking to the microphone. Things like, hey, I want a 6-pack of chicken McNuggets. Well, what you can do is train that CSS model to recognize those special keywords like chicken McNuggets, as well as filtering out that background noise that typically occurs. So the answer is not here with this service, but you can actually use these in conjunction with other services to accomplish what you're looking for.
And there's also ways to train the model in terms of like slang and different dialects and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, next demo?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, we're trying to show you demos while at the same time bringing the point home in terms of these are APIs, these are developer APIs. Whether you're a C# developer or Node developer, your developers can just start using these APIs and building apps. So he showed you this app working. I'm going to restart this app and run it again, but this time I'm going to run it in debug mode, and we're going to put a couple breakpoints in. So right off the bat here, we can see that it's constructing a URI similar to what we saw before. There's the translate API. You can see we're going from English to FI, Finnish, I don't know what that is. All right, so you can see we're constructing URLs. We have certain query string parameters, whether we're filtering out profanity and different flags that we can use. All right. Hello, how are you today? And you can see some of the results that come up in the debugger. My Zoom might not be too happy with this. Let's try it one more time. So for those of you, if you can see it, oh, okay. When I click my Zoom, it's not happy with me. Okay, but the point I want to make here is this is actually just C# code I'm stepping through. There's hello, how are you today? There's the translation I'm not even going to attempt to say, but these are APIs you can just call, and you're going to get real-time results. So as for the developers in the room, this is how some of that stuff is going to look behind the scenes. All right. Okay. Next demo. Intelligent kiosk.
All right, so this is another really good GitHub app that you can pull down yourself. And from here, this allows us to demonstrate a couple of different APIs at the same time from just one simple interface. And basically all we have to do is just go to the settings, plug in the API keys that we need, select our camera source, and then we don't really need to worry about anything from here because we're going to be using what we call this real-time crowd insights demonstration. If I can find it. There it is. So what this is going to do is actually pull in the camera feed that we're using currently. And you notice that right now it's actually identifying me as Ken Hausman correctly with a 82% probability here. And it's seeing that I have a neutral expression. Well, all right. There, that's happy. So how does this actually occur is the question. So what we're doing is within this API here, or sorry, within this program here, we're making a call to the API and we're constructing a person group. And so the person group is essentially just a collection of faces that you're going to see here in a second. And from here, I've actually created person identities underneath of this group. And basically what you see is that we have a picture that we just took a moment ago and dropped it into this person object. And after that, we trained our model. And you can see that this actually occurs pretty quickly. So again, what we're doing is just taking pictures of people, dropping them into buckets of persons, and then into groups of persons as well.
And there's a couple of levels. You have the face identification, where you can just, this is a face I don't know anything about. I can see the expression, the emotion, the age. And then you go to the next level, which is face identification. And that's how, when he saw it there, you could actually see his name next to the caption.
Exactly. So, you know, there are a couple of different requirements. We need like a 36 by 36 minimum pixel size picture to be able to correctly identify a person, but we can actually use this to feed in video streams as well as just pictures in general. So again, it's just a very simple API call to the Face API. This is also using the Emotion API behind the scenes. And what we're doing is just providing information on the person identified in the frame. And you can see here that this particular demo is also grouping the number of people that it sees within the video frame since the demonstration has been playing. and it sees one person in
I'm not Ken
30s, and
These two
now you
people.
see that the number has actually increased in the bottom left side of the screen there to 2 persons in their 30s, and 2 unique persons. And it's also showing the track of emotions over time on that bottom right side, where you're seeing the different bars to associate between happiness or just neutral or even fear. Do we have any questions?
How's it adjusting the age?
So it's just running it through another API, the Emotion API. And we have machine learning models on the back end that we've basically taken buckets of photos of people who are smiling, people who are frowning, sad, anger, disgust. We actually have 8 different emotions that we can measure on a scale of 0 to 100. And we'll return that. So, essentially all it is, like I said, just a machine learning model that recognizes those emotional states.
But I think that is a key point, what Ken just said, because it's not like sometimes the demo is so seamless that it's like, oh, it just guessed your age. No, I mean, there's a massive data store on the back end that Microsoft has that's been through massive machine learning processing in order to come up with those results. So, and the age isn't always correct either, so, just caveat for everyone there. But, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to what ultimately just gets simplified to a little click of a button.
Exactly. Do you have a video that we can use?
I have a picture for the computer vision.
Let's just go over to computer vision at this point. All right.
Okay, so sticking with the Vision APIs here, I'm going to show another Vision API Explorer demo. I'm going to select a couple of pictures here. And let me go over here. Okay, I'm going to actually select like 3 or 4 pictures here. I'm going to open all these. And let's select this one first. So this is just a JPEG or a PNG file. Well, let me try that one more time. Select. And you can see it's quite a busy file. It's people walking around a city street. But if we look at what the API just was able to parse out and glean from this picture here, you can see that it recognizes a road. It recognizes that it's busy. It can see that we're on a city street. It notices that there's people walking and there's traffic and this is an outdoor event. It was able to get all that just from 1 second of an API call. Let's look at a couple other examples. Let me grab this one right here. And so it goes out and makes the API call, uploads the picture. Hopefully I still have internet connection. There we go. It recognizes it's in a train station. Let me bring that right here. It recognizes a platform and a track and a building, and it knows that you're indoors, not outdoors. In fact, it even sees that, hey, 61%, I think I'm on a subway right here. I mean, all of the things that we have in this picture, it's able to just extract from that picture. It's actually pretty amazing. Go ahead.
And also, just one other thing that I want to interject here is not only as you see, the API correctly identifies, tags objects within that photo, but if you click back here, Steve, real quick, you can also see that it correctly assembles a description of what it actually sees within that picture. So right here, you can see Steve is going to zoom in. It's going to say, I see a group of people at a train station. So, we're able to assemble all those objects and then correctly, essentially identify a scenario that is occurring. And it looks like, Victor, you have a question.
So those bunch of pre-trained scenarios, you definitely train the system to recognize all those.
No. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
So
we did not train the system.
for the people in the audience,
on the facial so the question is, so we train the system to recognize that. When we were talking about the training the model, that's when we were talking about facial recognition. So when it sees a person's face, it knows whether that's Steve Michelotti or Ken Hausman. Now, this is a different API. This is computer vision API. I didn't train the system at all. I just gave it the picture, and it knew, without any training whatsoever, it was able to extract, oh, this is a subway station, this is a busy city street, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, I don't know, developed a new car that never seen by this API. I wanted to recognize it by the shape. How do I train the system to recognize these new types of documents?
Okay,
Good.
I'll take that one. So the question for the remote audience was, I have a brand new car that came out, and how do I actually train the computer vision API to be able to recognize that vehicle? Well, we don't. Within the computer vision API, the only thing it's going to actually return correctly is it sees a vehicle, a car, in that picture. Now, there is another tool we call the cognitive toolkit that we can actually use to actually create our own essentially algorithms to be able to train those models using deep neural networks to be able to correctly identify a Lexus from a BMW or a convertible from a pickup truck, or be able to identify somebody in a motorcycle helmet based on a feed of somebody walking into a bank. So, there are a bunch of different scenarios. Basically, the sky is the limit using the cognitive toolkit to be able to create your own models and then feed through your own algorithms. So, yeah, we can do that on Azure. All right. Any other questions?
I think that's an important point, because even like we do a lot of government scenarios. So like, TSA is another scenario. Like, can it recognize a picture like this? And a picture like this, it can generally recognize, yes, 100%, this is a gun. But sometimes if you have like an X-ray machine, the pictures might come in these weird colors like pink and orange, and so that's not a gun, that's graffiti on a wall, right? So it's those situations where you may need to customize by using those neural networks to say, no, it's not graffiti on a wall, it's actually a gun, but not a normal gun, an X-ray gun. So these are the types of, and again, we're always thinking of these government-focused scenarios where if the out-of-the-box technology works for you, great. If you need to go one step further, you can do that as well. One other thing I just want to follow up on the Face API real quick is, and this just to drive home the point of face identification versus face recognition. If we take a picture like this right here, what we're going to see is that all of the people in here get identified as an age, but there's only 2 people in this photo that actually have a name identified, and that's Trump and Kushner here. So this is an example of customizing the database. So here's a person that's 13 years old. Like, we don't want to have that person's name because they're youth, right? But then for people that are well-known celebrities, yes, we want to have it. Or maybe you have a suspect database, or you could have a registry of sex offenders, whatever the case may be. This is where you can customize what your person groups, you can customize your database, and really be able to customize what you are storing depending on what your mission is. There was a question over here first.
So what happens to the images you're uploading right now? Are they kept in the system, or are they thrown away?
Go ahead.
So the question is what happens with those pictures currently? Basically, all the pictures that you store within your subscription are tied directly to you. We don't use those pictures for our own purposes. We don't have access to them. So they are within your subscription key, and whenever that subscription key is deleted, those pictures go away.
Think of it like Azure Storage.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. So, yep. And it looks like we had one other question.
Yeah, I was just going to say broadly, some we can, some we can't talk
Sure.
about. Maybe some of the use cases you touched on, just to bring this home a little bit, Steve, and we can.
Sure.
Just at a high level on this, just for the audience, just to
Okay.
sort of bring this home a little bit.
So, yeah, basically use cases within the government space. Like, what could we use these things for? So, a lot of different scenarios. I mean, it depends on who your customers really are or who you work for. We can use this Face API, for example, to feed in video to possibly be able to identify people within a video feed. So if we have a list of maybe like 100 or 1,000 most wanted persons, we could pre-populate that API key with those faces, and then whenever we possibly see that person walk across that video feed, be able to trigger an alert for an agent or a police officer or somebody else, security officer, to be able to go out and possibly apprehend that person. Or, if you're in like the finance sector, we have some customers that are using this today to be able to basically take a camera feed, and whenever a high roller client comes through the door, they can actually trip that video feed to be able to say, hey, Steve just walked in, he is one of our multi-million-dollar customers, let's treat him with the white glove service, that kind of thing.
And even some of the translation stuff, we talk about use cases like real-time interviews, border patrol, immigration. I mean, there's a lot of it's the sky's the limit with your imagination. We're seeing lots of interesting scenarios coming up.
Absolutely. Question?
Okay.
Yeah, and I have to preface my question with, I'm a SharePoint geek, so mostly I deal with document management, content management
Okay.
issues. Could I do the same thing with documents to maybe say, this document contains the following kind of information, whether it's ITAR or FOUO, and needs to be moved over to a different location, or
Okay, so
bridge too far?
I'm
So-
trying to make sure I understand. Go ahead, Vishwas, did you have a comment? So I just want to make sure I'm understanding the question first. Do you want to add a clarification on his question, or?
The question is, he wants to use SharePoint to auto-classify documents.
Yeah, we have other solutions for that. Yeah. So we actually have some other solutions for your particular scenario. For the remote audience, there was a question in the audience about could we potentially point some of these APIs against a SharePoint library, for example, and be able to pull out keywords and then correctly classify documents. So we have some other products that we could discuss with you, and we'll bring that up afterwards. Any other questions?
Next demo?
All right. What do we have? No.
So that's,
We don't.
let's do Face API and then bot demo. Okay, so just want to, again, actually this demo is going to be quick, but I want to show another demo here of more of a real time. So actually this is the same picture, and are we good? No, we're good. No. Okay, so this is another picture here, and I'm just going to click the detect button, and you notice when I click this detect button, we had these red squares appear on each face, and I can click any face right here. So I click Donald Trump, and okay, beard 0, mustache, so no facial hair. Gender is male, age is 68. You can click on any of these other ones, and okay, this is a female, and you can go all around. And we could do face recognition as well. But again, from a developer standpoint, I want to show what does some of the underlying code look like when you build a solution like this. In fact, I'm going to hit the F12 here for the developer tools, and let's go ahead and click detect again. And there's the call that just got made behind the scenes. And you can see this is what came back here. We have a face rectangle that came back for each person. In fact, it might be easier to see it over here. So here are the objects that got returned. For each person, here's the face attributes. And we can see age 68. Okay, this is probably the Donald Trump. Here's the facial hair, beard, mustache, sideburns, gender, male, glasses, head pose, whether they're smiling, okay? And then we come in here and we can see the face rectangle, height, width, left, top, and you can see the dimensions here. So when we talk about these APIs, the APIs are it's just a JSON payload that's coming across the wire via an HTTP call. And then you as a developer can take this data. So basically what I did here is I just wrote a little JavaScript to say, okay, well you gave me the dimensions for the face rectangle. I have a top and a left, and I have a height and a width. And so I can use these dimensions to use JavaScript to draw the rectangles on the screen. And these are the types of things. And I want to bring that point home because sometimes people think, oh, cognitive services is going to return the picture for you with the rectangles drawn. No, that's not the case. All cognitive services is doing is returning this JSON payload. You do with it what you will. If you want to draw the face rectangle, great. If you want to have the dots that come with the eyes and the corners of the mouth, great. You can do that too. I opted not to do that. So just a quick look at some of the underlying code. This call right here shows an example of, I've hard-coded the picture in here, this Trump family JPEG. And you can see, and this has its own API, this own STK, where we can call detect async as the face detection. And we can pass attributes in here. And you can see some of these attributes are, do we want gender? Do we want whether they're smiling? Do we want facial hair? Because I might say, you know what, I don't care if they have facial hair or not, so I'm not even going to include that call. I don't even want the payload to include that, because I want the payload to be as small as possible. I only want the payload to contain the attributes that I, as a developer, care about. If I'm not tracking facial hair, then I don't want to return it. If I am, then yes, I want to make sure I return that in my API call. Or whether they're wearing glasses or what their age is. You get to control what the API returns from a development standpoint. And then, when it returns, you can just come in here, and this is just a little bit of the JavaScript that comes in here, and it grabs the gender and whether they're glasses, and it draws the rectangles right here. The face rectangle is grabbing it from here and just using a little CSS to draw a div around, positioning that div exactly where it needs to go on the page to draw that face rectangle. And it's a couple hours of work. But the key here is, the main takeaway is, because they're APIs, you have a ton of flexibility to be able to do with it whatever you want. If you don't like the way I'm displaying it here, cool. You can display it however you want. Right? All right, we have one more demo we want to show you guys that Ken is going to do here, bot framework.
Okay, so we're going to take a little bit of a spin on things. And I know that we're going to make a little bit of a stretch here. We're also going to show you an example of how we can use the bot framework to be able to basically return correct information to a customer. So if you all aren't familiar with bot framework, it's another service that we have. And what it allows you to do is to expose your data through what we call channels. And those channels are things like Skype, I think WeChat is another, Facebook Messenger, Kik, Teams, for example. So we have 8 different channels that we can expose data through. And basically what that allows your customer to do is interact on their own terms. I know many of you in the audience have smartphones, probably everybody does at this point. And, you know, think for yourself. You probably install a lot of applications, but many of you may not even go back to those applications, you know, a week from now or a month from now. Most of the time you're using messaging applications, and that's why we're focusing in on bot framework. And not only that, but you know, we're going to show you bot framework, but additionally this kind of segues into Justin Herman's talk that he's going to be coming up and talking about how GSA is implementing a big program across the federal government space. So what I'm going to do here is pull up Teams, and you're going to see that I have a link to what we call the knowledge bot. I've already sent it a basic message, and I just say hello. And now I'm going to say, how are you? And with our new internet connection, it's eventually going to kick back. You can see that the bot is typing, and it says, very good, thanks. Well, that's not very fun. Tell me a joke. What do you call a bear without an ear? A bee. Horrible.
One person thought it was fine.
Yeah. Too much wine for you. But what you can see here is that we're able to take language that we're just typing into this box, and then what it's doing behind the scenes is doing a lookup and then correctly responding with basically what we've programmed it to do. So I can ask these questions in a varying method, but it's generally going to respond back, and that's because it's using a service called LUIS underneath the hood, Language Understanding Intelligence Service. So let me ask something a little bit more intricate, and maybe I want a little bit more information back than just a line of text. What is HoloLens? Oh, great. Now I actually have a picture and a description. Well, you know, we can use these bots to do a multitude of different tasks. Can I get dental coverage in the marketplace? Yeah. So here, you can see that it's actually responding with the correct answer and then giving me a link where I can actually go out to another web portal. So maybe I'm a little bit ADD and I want to go back to the previous conversation. Well, what optics are available? You can see that this is actually taking the whole conversation and understanding the context of what I'm doing, despite me jumping around. Maybe I want to ask, can I get coverage if I have a pre-existing condition? Okay, great. Again, here's another example of how I can return what we call a card from the bot service. How do I change the light bulb in my car? Okay. Who is Michael Jordan? What this is actually going to do is use Bing to actually just go out and pull back data live. What if I want to be president? Okay. Well, this is actually good. What this is actually showing is, hey, I don't actually have something like that in my database, in my collection. So what am I going to do here? What we can actually do is behind the scenes trigger an event that basically logs this out to Dynamics, and then we can even have a live agent then jump into this conversation and start correspondence with the person. Maybe something, let's do something a little bit more difficult. What is my balance? Balance of what? Oh, looks like I'm trying to actually log into my bank account. So what it's going to do is make me jump out to actually perform an authentication here. I'm going to plug in some super secret credentials here. Not really. Great. So, what is my balance? That's pretty cool. So it's not saying, hey, this is your balance. It's actually saying I have 3 different accounts underneath of my account. So maybe I want to check the current, my checking. Okay, great. 1,024 pounds. Okay, that's good. But let's do something just a little bit harder. For those of you who speak French, what is my balance? It can actually do translation right on the fly. All of this is open sourced. It's called PresenterBot. Question? Am I eligible? Okay, great question. So the question was, can we perform complex decision trees? And the answer is absolutely yes. This is all just controlled by code. So what we're doing is really a simple demo here of Q&A Maker, which is another cognitive service, in addition to Lewis and Translator, as well as the bot framework itself. So yes, you can actually program anything you really want to within this bot to be able to perform.
And you were using KnowledgeBot as what you were typing into, but you could have done this with Skype, right?
Sure. Absolutely, yeah.
So the key is no UI development whatsoever, and yet you still were able to get rich controls, buttons, images, charts, and no UI development whatsoever.
Another question. So again, how do you train it to a specific knowledge base? For example, medical diagnosis. Do you provide some kind of database, documents? How the process looks like?
So the question was, what is actually powering all this data behind the scenes here? You can actually code this data directly within your bot. Or in this case, what we're actually using is dynamics behind the scenes, in addition to Q&A Maker. So I can actually swap back and forth between Q&A Maker and dynamics. Dynamics is just really another much more robust method of being able to say, hey, I have a question, here's a proper response. I can provide a lot of rich controls within there, like video, audio, even pictures. So yeah, we definitely need to wrap up because we're going on an hour here, and we were only given 45 minutes. So.
We will be available for questions afterward, so we'll stop the questions right now, but we'll be available for questions afterward. And again, just encourage you guys to explore the technology, and again, let us know if you have questions. We can help you get started.
Awesome.